Good afternoon everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name's Alex Buckley and this week I have with me Katie Savage from OSDO and Heather Fraser from Cyber Security. Thanks both for coming along today. Before we start discussing this week's topics, I thought I'd just ask you both to explain your roles at Strathclyde. What do you do? So Katie, you're from OSDO.
Sure.
What is OSDO?
So I'm from the Organisational and Staff Development Unit, which means we provide activities for staff to support them in their development and to enhance their skills within the university. My role is particularly in academic development, which means that I work with the academic staff, particularly those that are involved in learning and teaching, to try to help them build their skills within the learning and teaching context so that we can be at the top of our game in Strathclyde, that we have innovative teaching methods and that our students can learn in the best ways possible.
Thanks. Heather, you're in the cybersecurity team.
Absolutely.
We're going to be talking more about cybersecurity in a minute, but briefly, what is your role at Strathclyde?
Okay, so the cybersecurity team, like you say, it's a brand new team that started in the university at the beginning of this year, and what we're really focused on is making sure that all staff and all students are safe while they're online, and that includes taking care of all of our data. We've got a lot of research data at the university. It includes making sure our systems are up to scratch and that we've got everything right in the background, and it also includes going out and speaking to staff and students around what measures they can take themselves to make sure that we keep everything secure. So we're really trying to create a kind of community where, you know, we make sure our people are the first line of defence for cybersecurity awareness.
Thank you. Right, okay, so in terms of the content from this week, some of the content was on lectures, what staff expect from lectures, how to take lecture notes, things like that. There were quite a few comments in the discussion with students expressing surprise that lectures were seen as interactive. So for instance, Craig Halliday said, "I've tended to think of a university lecture as being pretty much a one-way process. But like other students in this thread, I was surprised by the amount of emphasis in the videos on discussion and participation. The key word seems to be engagement before, during and after the lecture." So Katie, why do you think students are surprised that lectures are seen as interactive?
Well, I wonder, Craig, if it's just even the word lectures that makes you think that, because I think just the word lectures gives you the idea that somebody is going to stand at the front and lecture to you. So I think it's quite important that the students in the class this week have been starting to pick up on the fact that actually that's not really what's going to happen. It might seem like that in TV when you see universities and perhaps things about universities in films, but it's not really like that. That's not what we want. What we want is for the students to get involved in their classes and to speak to us, to have a dialogue with us. It's a bit more of a conversation than a lecture. So I think what we're looking for is for students to expect that interactive experience. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Heather, you're currently a student at Strathclyde as well as a member of staff. Are your lectures interactive?
Very much so, yeah. Our lectures are fantastic actually in the business school. We have a lot of industry professionals teaching, so just by nature of that, there's a lot of conversation and a lot of dialogue that goes on during those lectures. And what I actually think is really useful with that is that it really keeps your thinking quite focused and keeps you on the right path with the conversations that happen during lectures. So yeah, they're very interactive.
Great. I mean, I think students, you'll find that lecturers treat their lectures differently, so it'll differ from lecture to lecture, but there'll always be an expectation that you are active, either by participating in discussions or by actively thinking through what they're talking about.
Sometimes that can be difficult as well. You know, I was thinking about some of the conversations I have with the staff, and they'll often come and say, well, you know, I'm asking questions in the lecture, but my students don't answer. Yeah. You know, what can I do? So sometimes it's about just, and I think the fact that these students have been thinking about this week will make them think about just taking that perhaps brave step of putting their hand up or asking a question in class, because, you know, it's a bit of a cliche, but if you've got to ask a question, if you haven't understood something, then other people in the class won't have understood it either. So I think that's really important for students to think about, and for the teachers to think about as well. Okay.
There were some other comments that picked up on the idea that students should discuss the ideas from the lectures afterwards. So I've got a couple here. Shirley Ann Keith said, "I like the idea of discussing the lecture with peers afterwards to keep the topic fresh in your memory or iron out any points that were made." Lindsay Doyle said, something I hadn't thought about, which both the students and lecturers encouraged, was the importance of talking about a lecture after it's finished, so you don't forget about it easily, and how this can expand your knowledge and learning. And I know in the video, Katie, you were pressing the importance of students discussing lectures afterwards. Why is it so important, do you think?
I think it's really important, and I think it's an extension of the active learning process that we want you to engage in the classroom. You will take your own understandings away from your lecture, but what's really important is that you come away and discuss those understandings with your colleagues, because they might have some different understandings, they'll have picked up on different things, they'll have created it within a different body of knowledge, they'll know about different things than you will. So it's about putting all that together, and through that discussion you'll be able to take what you've been able to get out of the lecture and add to it what your friends and colleagues have gotten out of a lecture, and come away with a much greater understanding of what's being discussed in class. So it's actually really important.
Okay. Katie, from your experience teaching in science, there's a lot of technology that's around these days. How do you think technology is changing the nature of lectures?
Technology is changing quite a lot about what we do. It lets us change the lecture from being perhaps a 1 or 2 hour teaching session to being something that takes much longer, something that expands beyond the scope of just that one classroom session. So for example, through using My Place, which you've been using this week, we can ask you to do some pre-work. We can ask students to engage in activities that prepare them for what we want to do in class. So we might ask them to do some reading before, or to watch a video, watch something on YouTube, and come prepared to discuss a topic. It means that when we're in the lecture session or the class session, we can actually start thinking about things that are much more complicated, rather than focusing on delivering knowledge to the students. So really being able to help you do the things that are much more difficult, sometimes even doing the homework questions within the class, because that can be really useful to get help with those more complex things. It lets us also, technology also enables us to give support after the class as well. So through the use of My Place, we've got lots of different tools that we can make use of. As a teacher, if I want my students to reflect, I might ask them to do a blog after class. I might ask them to think about what we've talked about in class, to reflect on it and create a blog for other colleagues to have a look at and comment on. If I want them to discuss something, I might put a discussion forum up there. So there's lots of tools right at our fingertips to help students to take that learning beyond the classroom and to really start thinking about what we want them to do with the information. So I think technology has really helped. In my own science background, I've been able to make a lot more use of things like case studies, for example, and through using video techniques, various multimedia techniques, we've been able to make a lot of use of that, and I think it really brings a lot of things to life in the classroom, which I think is much better for the students. It's a much more realistic experience and helps us bring much more professional aspects into the classroom, which I think is a really positive advancement.
Yeah. I would also add to that as well, Katie, that actually, you know, Strathclyde is a leading international university. Absolutely. And on the course that I'm on, there's quite a number of international centres too, and what the technology allows us to do is actually to collaborate across different countries in a way that, you know, previously we wouldn't have been able to. So it's big changes.
Absolutely.
Sticking to the topic of technology, some of the activities for this week covered IT and cybersecurity.
Yes.
Now, I don't really know very much about cybersecurity. Is it a new issue, or has it been around for a while?
Yeah, Alex, it's certainly got you know, a lot more visibility at the moment. So previously, you know, cybersecurity would actually have been in your IT department, and it would have been something that your IT managers were taking care of. That's actually no longer the case anymore, and it's been brought out of the IT teams and into the boardroom, and because of that, it's absolutely everyone's responsibility. And at Strathclyde as well, you know, like I just mentioned, a place of useful learning, the thing that we're really trying to do with cybersecurity is give our staff and students skills that help them outside of work and outside of study. And when you guys move on from your courses and into your careers, cybersecurity will actually be a key skill that you're expected to finish university having. So we really want to make sure that we empower our people, staff and students, to handle that.
What would be your top tips for being secure online?
Right, okay, so if we started with what the basics were, we definitely want you to have strong and secure passwords, and there's guidance online with how you can do that. In addition to that, social engineering is becoming a real big problem these days. So we've all experienced the email phishing scams we get. Sometimes you get a message through Facebook Messenger that you know isn't for you. And what those are phishing emails, and they're trying to get personal information from you. So we'd love it if everyone could take some time to read up and be able to identify those. The third most important thing, which is very, very current, we'll all have seen the NHS cyber hack, which happened with the WannaCry malware. And that became a problem because the systems weren't up to date. So that's when you get a prompt to update your system or to refresh your antivirus. We want people to be doing that, and the university actually give free antivirus software to all students as well, so you can access that through My Place too.
Okay, so this is a slightly different question. When are the key points when students should be particularly aware of cybersecurity?
We really want students to be aware of cybersecurity all the time. As we've spoke about, technology is completely changing the way that we all operate, and actually now your safety online is just as important as your physical safety, and we want students to really come with that approach. So if students could be aware of their online security all the time, that would be perfect. There was actually a recent statistic from the Office of National Statistics that said actually 53% of crime is now committed online, so it really is that 50-50 split that we really want everyone to be safe and secure when they're at university and at home.
Okay, one last question. So if students want more information, where on campus could they find you?
Well, for Freshers Week, for 1 week only, we will be at Freshers Week, where you can come and talk to us. You can ask us any questions you like. We'll be there to help you. We'll also be in the Advice Hub, where you can bring in your laptops and your mobile phones actually, and we can check them out for you. We can tell you where to access the software and some basic tips of what you should be doing. Out with that, we're going to be based in the library, or we are based in the library, and you'll find us there anytime you're looking for us.
Thank you. We've got a bit of time left, so I just wanted to ask a very general question to both of you, which is, for those people coming to Strathclyde from school, what's the biggest difference in learning, in how you go about learning when you're at school compared to when you're at university?
Yeah, I think for me that the students coming from high school straight into university are going to experience a higher expectation to take a much more proactive approach to their education, and I think that's a real opportunity to really stand your ground and show what you're made of.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I completely agree with you. I think that really is the most important thing, and the biggest difference that they'll find is being completely responsible for yourself. But what an opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, and the only thing I'd add to that is you're often being taught by people who are actively researching the subject that they are teaching. So kind of the boundaries of knowledge are being pushed. So it's okay to question things because the people teaching you are actively involved in questioning things themselves. I think that's the big difference. Okay, so I think we're coming to the end of our time now, so I'd like to thank Katie and Heather for coming along this week and sharing your thoughts, and we'll see you all next week.